This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, happy publishing day to all of you, or authoring day, or maybe this is a writing day. But I want to expand your thinking because we're going to talk about marketing with your words and that how essential that is when you have that book in hand, when you have your words in hand that you think are stellar, and we're going to probably show you maybe they could do a little tweaking. When you are pushing out your promotional side, how gold your words can be. With us is the awesome Casey Demchak, and Casey is an award-winning copywriter. He's recognized as an expert at crafting engaging marketing materials for dozens of authors, and he's earned Amazon's bestseller and international bestseller status. Casey helps authors achieve these milestones by employing conversational copywriting techniques that use benefit-driven statements, emotion, and storytelling to motivate readers to buy their books. He's also known for his innovative approach to creating what he calls, the core message platform that serves as the master messaging document for your book. Casey's also an author. His book, Essential Sales Writing Secrets, is one of the how-to resources you should have. Casey's based in Denver, like I am, and you could discover him on his website at CaseyDemchak, that's DEMCHAK.com, to learn lots more. So, Casey, we have a lot to talk about because a lot of people think they can't market right now because of the social distancing or the shutdown. And I always say, what? You are nuts. There is a gazillion things that you could do right now. And should be doing.
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because everybody's online right now. So it's probably a great time.
It could be a better time than ever for online. But it's so, I'm always amazed. I have one of our, I won't say the name, but one of our people today is doing a promo push. And she's created posters. Posters look great and all that. And I just said, if you want me to do it, send me whatever you're sending out. And I am immediately rewriting the whole thing. The poster's fine, but the push does not have the snap, crackle, and pop that you want to grab the attention. And it goes back to the words that you use so often. And I certainly say you gotta suck them in emotionally if you want to nail them down. It's so important. And there was no emotion in the verbiage. None. So where do we start? Casey, when you sit down with an author, where do you start with him or her?
Most of the time, Judith, when authors come to me, they one of the places they don't know where to start, number one. They have some anxiety about writing marketing copy for their book. It's amazing. A lot of authors can write a book, but when it comes to saying good things about their own book, they tend to freeze up. So the first thing I tell them right off the top is your marketing copy can be written like a simple conversation that you'd have in a coffee shop between you and potential readers. So I always introduce the term conversational copywriting, and that tends to help, alleviate a little concern and put people at ease a little bit. So that's where I always try to, that's like, the starting position, start at position A, think, get in the mindset of I'm going to write marketing copy that has the feel, the tone and feel of a conversation between me and a potential reader.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I love storytelling. And that's actually what I did when I rewrote to do a few pushes for her. And it is always amazing to me how so many don't get this. It is amazing to me, Casey.
Yeah, there is kind of like I was saying, there's so many authors I work with, they just kind of lock up when it comes to writing marketing copy for their own book, or they're not really sure where to start. I always tell people, make it conversational. Let's have, make it fun. Get into some emotion.
I know. And fun's the fun part. And that's what I said in the beginning, does it snap, crackle, and pop? Does it have a little panache and sizzle? Or is it dull as watching the mud develop? And, okay, now we can talk.
Yeah, and, I think another great place to start was I always tell people to kind of get them to give that copy a little bit of, sizzle, or a little bit of, I always use the words, you want to hook and engage people. Mm-hmm. And what I always tell writers off the top is in addition to getting yourself in a mindset where you're going to write conversational copy, I always tell authors, put yourself in the mindset of, don't write what your book is about. Write what people are going to get out of your book. Focus on benefits. If you give people, tell people what they're, here's what you're going to get out of the book, and you focus on the reader and the takeaways for the reader, it's going to be very clear what your book is about. So I think a lot of times some of the copy I read for books that comes across as rather dull, it's because they're basically, here's what my book is about. They're trying to describe what their book is about, as opposed to telling me what I'm going to get out of the book. And I think when you get yourself in that mindset of, I'm going to focus on what people are going to get out of my book, your copy doesn't have to be slick and hypey and all that. It can be, your copy can be pretty straightforward, but it comes across as more engaging when you're, in the mindset of, I'm going to communicate benefits to my audience.
So it's what you're going to do to relieve my pain, to kiss my wounds, to make me feel better, or
make you feel better, or quench your thirst.
I love that.
Yeah, quench your thirst, meet a curiosity, because I've had people say, but Casey, my book is about famous archaeological digs of the 20th century. What's exciting about that? And I say, what's exciting? For people who read that stuff, it's exciting. They have a thirst for that kind of thing. You need to quench that thirst. People who read a CIA thriller, yours isn't the first that they're going to read, and it's not going to be the last. They have a thirst for that kind of thing. Or they're curious about what goes on behind the scenes, at the CIA or whatever. People who read murder mysteries, they're also interested in real-life murder mysteries. That's just something they have a thing for. So, whether it's a novel or a nonfiction book or even a textbook, you're satisfying a need or quenching a thirst of some kind for people, or they may have a challenge or something they need to overcome. But always think of, how am I meeting, quenching that thirst for people? Make a list of those things and then build your marketing copy around it. And even if it's not, real sizzling, kind of slick kind of copy, it can still come across as very engaging.
So is this something that they need to hire a professional to do, or is this something that they could learn how to do themselves? What do you think?
They can learn it. They can learn how to do it. More and more, Judith, you always know that I write marketing copy for authors, but more and more I'm getting into instruction. I just did a big live event, a live course with the Nonfiction Authors Association, where we had a 3-week course, and I taught, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about now. And I go, here's how you can apply these techniques to your back cover, to a website sales page, to, promotional e-blast copy, to your Amazon description. And I had so many authors get back to me and go, I get it now. All I needed to know, because what I always tell authors is, look, you have just written a book. You can write marketing copy. You just kind of need to know the inside secrets and tips and techniques, and you can do it. And I can teach you how to do it. And what you'll find is it can be fun. It can be simple. It's not complicated. And once you know the techniques, authors can definitely do it. Especially, authors on a budget, which is a lot of authors.
Yep.
They can just learn how to do the writing, and
Mm-hmm.
Follow instructions, just like they do. You follow a recipe. And I hate to use the like formulas and recipes. I hate to use that term, but what I was, to make it simple for authors, I go, look, I'm going to teach you some formulas, some templates, some recipes. And what do you do with a recipe when you first time you follow a recipe? Well, you follow it to the T, right? Because you're like, oh, I got to follow it to the T. Bake your cake or whatever it is. And then what do you start doing? You get a little more comfortable, and the next couple times you follow that recipe, you start kind of adding a little of this, taking a little of this out, and you kind of make that recipe your own. So I always teach authors, here's the recipes, but don't be afraid to kind of personalize it, make it your own as well.
Well, you're talking to someone who actually reads cookbooks for pleasure. And I mean, I'm a cook, so I love to do that. I immediately am altering it. Immediately, Casey, and saying, nah, I'm not going to put that in. I think I'm going to try this. And no, I'm going to give a little bit more of this. And, I am automatically doing that. And really what you're telling them in that break out. It's just, to me, a recipe is just a guide. Okay, here's some ideas you get going along. It's the same thing with what you're talking about. This is a guide. And when you start substituting in your words, your thirst, your quench, that all of a sudden it comes alive. And I actually, ironically, this morning I was teaching my coaching class that I do at 7:00 in the morning. That I had an interview that we did last week with a guest, and I heard one word. Actually, it was a phrase that she said, and I went crazy and created 10 new posts and quote posters off of it. And that when those things happen, those are magic to me, but it's when you get into this system. All right, with that, we're going to take our first break. With us is Casey Demchak, and we're talking about how to create words that come alive and sing and dance and literally seduce your potential reader. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you? Or another? AuthorU shows you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you will find a supportive and brainstorming community that is connected and creative, no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual AuthorU extravaganza. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. AuthorU is the premier authoring resource in the country, creating community, education, guidance, vision, and success for the serious author. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. Timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted on its social media platforms, and it is free. Discover AuthorU, where authors go to become seriously successful. Join AuthorU today at AuthorU.org.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so it's the power of a word or words or a word phrase that turns into a sentence that creates either the marketing pop, we're talking marketing pop here, that you're looking for that will ring the bell for someone who is reading it, for a visual that comes across. So I love these kind of conversations. So Casey, as we move along, is there anything you do to reduce some of the fear factors people have about stepping up to the plate?
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, if you think of your marketing copy as a conversation you're having with somebody in a coffee shop, it becomes much easier to at least get started. And then to get people to step up to the plate, I always tell them, get something down on paper. Even if it's just you're going to start with the first sentence or a call to action you're going to put at the end, get something down on paper just to get started. And then just think of some things. Write some benefit-driven statements about your book. They could be very straightforward. Just use a very, authentic, natural voice. And a big thing I tell them is write believable copy. What can really make your copy stand out, you want to avoid generalities. You want to avoid cliches. You want to provide detail. So in your first draft, if you're just writing some general statements or you find yourself using cliches like cut above the rest or take your career to the next level, things like that, that's okay. Just get something down on paper. When you have something down on paper, you feel like you're getting somewhere. And then you can always go back through and edit things and make them more detailed. But I always tell people, think of the easiest thing you can write to get something down on paper. You'll see it there in front of you. That's just a simple thing you can do to get rolling.
And then you need to start editing down, because I suspect a lot of it's going to be way too wordy. Would that be right?
Oh, absolutely. I always tell people, because I wrote a blog on this a couple of weeks ago, because I get people, they'll contact me and they'll say, Casey, I need you to work your magic, something like that. And I always go, gosh, I wish it was magic. I could do it quicker. What I always tell people is good writing is rewriting. Great writing is rewriting some more. So that magic thing, people think that I can do or you can do. As you know, it's rewriting and editing and going through it again and again, letting your copy incubate, writing something, putting it aside at least through lunchtime, but, preferably let the copy sit overnight and keep detailing it. Because if you put a lot of detail in your copy, and detail doesn't mean longer, it just means taking a general statement and giving it a little more detail. Like instead of saying, take your career to the next level, you say something that is more specific. And that alone can make your copy stand out without your copy having to be, that Madison Avenue style of writing. With most authors, when they think marketing copy, they think, oh, I got to be slick and cheesy and salesy. And you don't. You just have to be engaging.
I think the engaging is the right word. And I know it's getting overused. At least I kind of feel it is. What do you do to engage? What do you do to, I just hear it a gazillion times a day.
Yeah.
But it is that engagement factor that then builds your influence with them, and hopefully will domino to whatever your objective is that you go after. But you don't have to have a PhD in Madison Avenue ease. That's what we're saying here.
Oh yeah, and another big tip, as you know, when I say let's make it like a conversation you're having. Another mistake authors will make with their marketing copy is they start writing about what their book is about right away. And as I said, you want to make it more about what readers are going to get out of your book. Before you even get into the benefits of your book, we were talking about earlier about, readers have curiosity or that thirst or that need or that challenge. Write about that first. Write about your reader first. And it's just like if you're having a conversation with somebody, if you're talking about them, they'll listen to you for quite a while. If you're just talking about yourself, people's eyes tend to dart away. They start, oh my God, I'm going to shut up. So a great way to start your marketing copy is to start talking about your reader first. Make it about them first. Here's the desire I know you have. Here's the thirst I know you have. Here's a challenge that you need to overcome. Make it about them, and then you can position your book, start writing about what your book is about, write that nutshell description about your book. They can get into the benefits of your book, but first thing you can do to, help engage them or capture their attention is to make it about them. Just as if you're in a coffee shop talking with somebody, if you start talking to somebody about what's going on with them, you're going to get their attention a lot quicker than if you just start talking about, enough about you, let's make it about me,
And that is so true. I mean, I just see this. I see it all the time that there's this fear factor. And I have so many times, Casey, maybe you do, they say, well, I need to have this back cover written for my book. And that when I'm working on it, I said, I can't write the back cover copy till I'm done, because I don't know what the benefit is. You tell me I have to feel it as I go through the book. I mean, I've always felt that I've got to feel it. So did you engage me? Can you convince me? Did you seduce me? Did you reveal? Did you satisfy my curiosity? Deal with the thirst, the quench, all those things. And those are such great words you're using, Casey, to describe this, to kind of bring people in so they understand what this concept is all about. And it's great.
Yeah, because that's what you're doing for people. When it really comes down to it, that's why people read books. It's just like I'll tell authors, why do people read, every Stephen King book? Are they in search of the perfect Stephen King plot? No. They know that Stephen King's going to scare the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's what they want. They have a need for that. It's just like when remember the book Helter Skelter way back when? Mm-hmm. The Manson murders happened when I was 7 years old, so it was just kind of blew my mind. I was a 7-year-old kid. But a number of years later, when I was a teenager, the prosecuting attorney, Vincent Bugliosi, put out a book. And I was a little, I was still curious about that crime, but I was a little older enough to read it, a little more mature where I could read about it, Mm-hmm. And I opened the book at the bookstore. I still remember this today. It was the book Helter Skelter that he wrote. I opened the cover and there was a blank page that had a simple sentence on it, and it said, "This book will scare the hell out of you."
Oh, and
there you go. I just went, I'm in. Really, and I read the book at night, and I was alone, and it did. It scared the hell out of me. But that people read books for a reason and tap into that. Again, it goes back to what we were talking about, the thirst or the curiosity, but tap into that right away and just be upfront with it. And just realize people read books. It's just like romance novels. People read one after another after another. They're not looking for the perfect romance plot. They're all kind of structured in a very similar way. They're trying to get that feeling of when they were younger, that summer romance they had on the beach or something like that.
Well, and the reality is also, this was a great tell for me. I was interviewing the woman who was behind a website called the Story Monsters, and they did all kinds of. They have the Dragonfly Awards and all those. And we were talking about awards and the evaluations and what the judges go through and that. And I love the way she did the quick summary. She says, "Does the title grab me?" She's looking for the grab. And of course, when you're dealing with fiction, they're all over the place, as you know. But in nonfiction, so is it going to be a one-word kind of grab, whether it tells me what it is about, but it's the subtitle that has to have the magic in it. And if the subtitle is the promise, and by the time we go through the book, did they deliver on the promise? And I never forgot that, Casey. Because that is that the main title is the lighthouse, the siren going around. That's the word or several words. Usually the less is better for the main title. But the subtitle has to be the juicy promise for nonfiction. And if it doesn't deliver, the book's dead.
Yeah, and the subtitle should always have a little more detail than the title.
Always. Always.
Yeah, it's like headline, subhead, or book title and subtitle. Have a little more detail and imply a benefit or a promise. Again, thinking of that curiosity or need or thirst that you're going to quench for people. Make sure that's strongly, if it's not directly stated, strongly implied. Because again, it goes back to the thing of, what's in this for me? What am I going to get out of this book? So you definitely want to strongly imply that. And another tip I'll give, because I'm sure you ran into this too, where you're kind of helping somebody with their title and subtitle,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to have words so much repeated in your subtitle that are in your title. Then it just sounds goofy and redundant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I have to say, so many authors don't get why they can't, why they shouldn't. Maybe can't's not the right word. Why they should not. And you're using up an extra word you don't need as a rule, but you could grab another one that could have a more searchability when this starts getting written out. Or that let's go back to the emotional pull on it. So.
Yeah, because if you use one word that has an emotional pull and then you use another word that's different, it kind of tightens the pull a little bit. It's kind of a wasted. And it comes across as kind of redundant. Like I'm working on a book right now, and they use the word hero in the head title, and then they use the word hero in the subtitle. And it doesn't work, but they've got, the cover designed and all this stuff already in motion. So it's like,
change it.
But it's like,
I can change. You can change the subtitle in a nanosecond if you need. Yes, I think as you coach them, you got to make a decision. Where does hero? If hero's essential with it, where does it have the most pop?
Yeah, exactly.
And then change the other, but that would be a no in my book too. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Oh, so that, you know what? Here's what Casey and I are saying, everyone. If your ego is in play here, which we all know authors have egos in play, that you need to step aside. And I also really believe it's like in the editing process that when we're getting through it, I tell authors you're going to be really upset when you're going to get this back, I suspect, because of all the changes that we're recommending that you make. If you will go through the whole process, by the time you're at the last change, you're going to agree with 95%. And then you go to the battle for the other 5%, but that's how I look at that, you've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for a long time. We've seen a lot of the same stuff over and over, and we kind of know what works and what doesn't work. That's part of our responsibility. All right, with me is Casey Demchak. You can find him at Casey Demchak, DEMCHAK.com. And we are talking about the power of your words and how to create marketing magic with them. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Discover the power of you and your book at the Judith Briles Unplugged events. Each summer, Judith Briles Book Marketing Unplugged unfolds over 3 intensive days working with just Judith. You get publishing strategies, author and book platforms, book marketing panache and pizzazz, and authoring tools to take you and your book to rock star success. In the fall and winter, Judith Briles Speaking Unplugged includes Judith as your coach and mentor during 2 powerful days. You will learn how to structure a speech, how to create openings and closings, how to find gigs that pay you and sell your books, and you will get one-on-one coaching. Go to thebookshepherd.com and click on the Events tab to learn how to participate at the next Unplugged Workshop event.
Congratulations on getting your book published. The effort you put into your work is truly commendable. But what's next? What will happen to all the knowledge you have worked so hard to acquire to produce your book? Here at TogiNet Radio, we can provide you a platform to keep your knowledge working for you through the power of podcast. The subjects our podcasts cover are as varied as the grains of sand on a beach. From life coaching to military resources to business success, even to the paranormal. We have a place for everyone. To get started on your next step, call Scott at 903-787-5600 888-267-5880 or email him at scott@toginetradio.com. That's SCOTT at TOGINETRADIO.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, we're halfway through. We've got a lot more information about the power of your marketing copy. And I know that our expert today, Casey Demchak, would parallel with me that all of you who have written a book or are in the process of writing think this is the big enchilada. It's not. It's the marketing. And once you know 90% of the success of your book is going to be marketing, what you do with promo copy, what you do with your verbalization when you go out. Yes, it helps when you write a good book, but it's what you do with your marketing, verbiage, and words. Do you parallel me, Casey, on that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's so important today, and I'm sure you run into this too, the authors that you work with who have the most success are the ones who really get into their marketing and become the biggest advocate of their own book.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's no question about that. But and here's the great news for all of you, that if you published with a traditional type of publisher, your window for getting any kind of support, if you even get it from them, is just a couple of weeks. The beauty of the self and the independent publishing market is that you can keep a book alive that is long in the tooth, that's been out for several years, and you're able to come back and redress it with new verbiage, new words, new images, new fill in the blank, and bring that baby back to life. That's what I love to do.
Well, yeah, another tip, and I'm sure you give the authors the same tip too, is I'll have people say to me, well, what can I have my book launch, and then what? And I'll always say, well, you know what, you can, if you have a book launch, you typically give away some free bonuses or something like that. You can, and then like 9 months down the road or 2 years down the road, depending on what your book is about, you can kind of piggyback cultural events or, holiday events. Like if you've written a book on finance, you can run some sort of special promotion around tax day every year or something and have some new bonuses you give away, something like that. So when you self-publish, you can be very creative with, creating events or piggybacking on events in order to do further promotion for your book.
Well, I agree with that. So I'm gonna coattail onto what you said about a finance book. So the obvious thing in January is that you go out, okay, it's something about credit cards, or the budgeting, or the average. I think what the number is, by day 12 of January, 85% of the people have given up their resolutions. Okay, so you can kiss on that. On the 12th, if your resolution was to keep track of your money, this is the day to hold on to that, because 85% of you will say the heck with it. And you could keep things going throughout the year with a nonfiction book. But also there's just wonderful things you can do with fiction. And we've had more fun with promotions of fiction, and also on your promotion, your marketing. Okay, so you have a print book. Do you have an ebook? Yeah. Do you have an audiobook? Those are 3 different launches that you could do. Don't do them all at once. People will cross by. But just celebrate one and let it stand alone. That's what I would do.
Oh yeah, that's really great advice, because and just get yourself in the mindset of, have an alert up in your head of just thinking of different reasons to celebrate your book and how you can tie it to other events. We've all known people who they're constantly looking for reasons to celebrate something. It's Tuesday, let's have a good time. So
yeah.
Don't be thinking with your book of how, what's a good reason to draw attention to it.
Mm-hmm. And Tuesday's a great day to do something new or a push or my husband has a book that for kiddos, the Alphabet Menagerie. It's cool to be a critter. So I said, you know what? Let's do a promo on that. So we've got that set up and we're going to roll it out. In I think November, I've got all the social media copy written. We are now making all these posters for it. We'll blitz it out. So by the time that promotion, and we're going to do it on the ebook, this is to celebrate the ebook. By the time that promotion comes out, we don't have to do any work because it's all set up. It's just going to go. It's just going to go. And that's, for all of you, since we're talking marketing, if you will think ahead and get it on a schedule, just like you have a coffee date with somebody you're going to meet, you can do all the planning. And if you do it 4 weeks to 6 weeks out, it doesn't become overwhelming. So I have a question, Casey. How often do people come to you with the last minute that I need this yesterday?
Oh, yeah, too often. And, and I'm always encouraging people plan way ahead. Like you were just saying, you definitely want to plan ahead because if you're going to work with someone like me or a designer or anybody else involved with marketing, people can do their best work when they have, an appropriate amount of time. And I've had to turn away work sometimes from people who was just too last minute, and I have to tell them, look, I just can't, number one, do it that fast, and number two, I can't do it that fast and do it well. Just plan things out, plan ahead, think ahead, make a schedule, and that's just always the best way to do it.
I agree with you. All right, so I want to swing back because I love the phrase, the conversational copy that you use. Mm-hmm. And can you give us some of the characteristics that you would look for to either specifically state or in so blatantly imply that people will get what's going on?
Yeah, again, it comes back to some of the things I talked about earlier. Give detail. Stay away from cliches. Stay away from hype and fluff. Don't use terms like, this is a cut above the rest, or it's second to none, or this is a real game changer. Just get into detailed benefits. What is your book about? And and I always tell people, and we were talking about this earlier, read your copy out loud. When you write your copy, write in a more conversational tone. And when you're communicating benefits to people, that's like the one big tip I always give people is communicate benefits. Because if you're sitting in a coffee shop with someone and you're telling them some cool things that they'll get out of your book and you're being detailed, that is like the biggest characteristic is to give detail, focus on benefits, focus on your reader, what is their challenge, what is their thirst. And when you do that, you don't have to use any fluff or hype or anything like that. So, be specific. I always tell people, write copy that is believable. When you read your marketing copy out loud, just ask yourself, is this believable? Does this sound like something everybody else is saying? Because a lot of authors, whenever I talk to them about marketing copy, that is their fear, is that they're going to have to write some slick, kind of cheesy stuff, and it's just the opposite. When you focus on detail and benefits and you write in a down-to-earth tone that matches the tone and style of your book, it's just so much easier. It's about hitting the right steps. So it's like talking about the need your reader has, introducing your book and making a promise, and getting into some benefits about your book. If you've got some social proof you can offer, do that in a very down-to-earth way. So it's a matter of going through a sequence and how you present your information. So, and when you know the sequences, you just had to keep things in a more down-to-earth tone. You don't have to be slick and salesy.
It seems to me that each year there's some blog comes out or something about cliches not to use. Or do you have a go-to place, Casey, you like to go to remind you so you don't fall into, the canyon?
I don't have a really go-to place other than when I always read everything I read out loud, and just kind of a little buzzer goes off in my head. You know, like, I'm using something because, especially these days online, there's the word authentic is almost becoming now, for a while that was kind of a new word.
I know.
And it's becoming like, so if I find myself using the word authentic, I'll go, okay, well, that was kind of fresh and new a while back, but now it's becoming very cliche. So it's one of those things, it's kind of like the old saying, when you see it, it's more like, I know it when I hear it. And again, that comes back to why I think it's so important to read your copy out loud. So for me, it's just a matter of a little buzzer goes off in my gut. It says, no, that's being used too much, or like the phrase, this is second to none. What does that mean? It doesn't really, the copy to me has to mean something.
So what we're saying is, please don't use filler copy. It's not going to have the emotional. I mean, you're right. Second to none. What does that mean? Does that mean there's never been Avis? Or what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
No, you don't know what that means. And when you think about it, first of all, you're calling what you do second instead of first. And you're saying it's second to nothing, which is not really saying much. So, or it's a cut above the rest. I mean, things like that. Just stay away from. If you've heard it a million times, don't use it. It's like the old Jack LaLanne workout. They asked Jack LaLanne what's your favorite eating advice? And he said, if it tastes good, spit it out. Like if you heard it a million times, don't use it.
I remember Jack LaLanne saying that. My mother used to watch Jack LaLanne.
I used to watch it when I was a little boy. Yeah.
There you go. I think I was a little girl when you were a little boy. All right. So, all right. So cliches, they are taboo. And here's a little hint. If you take your phrase that you're trying to think of, like, a cut above the rest or whatever, something what Casey was saying, why don't you put that into Google and just see how many hits are on that? And I bet, just for the heck of it, if you did something like that, and put in a phrase like cut, is it a cut above the rest, Casey? Is that what's the rest? See it? Yeah, it automatically fails. Well, people, 1,220,000 results. Don't use it. All right, with that, we'll be right back for our final segment with Casey Demchak.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Are you confused about publishing options? Do you know which printing option is best for your book? Does your stomach flip when you think about selling books? Or do you feel overwhelmed with what to do about book marketing and publicity? Get the answers and much more. Get them and from someone who knows publishing inside and out from both the traditional and independent sides how to make a successful book. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand and platform, and is a success, a bestseller. It is your choice. You choose. If you want author and publishing success, you want Judith Briles as your book coach. Sign up for her weekly blogs and e-zine at thebookshepherd.com. The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and guide to collaborate with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author, You do not need more problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and chaos. At times, she has had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, by a publishing service provider, and sometimes even by the author. If you want author and book success, connect with her today at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, in our final segment, we just want to, we're going to do some reviewing here and get into some of these additional writing tips that Casey Demchak has. He is a core marketing messaging development expert. In other words, he knows words inside and out, and he'll make sure you use the right words. So, Casey, you have a free report on your website. You want to let people know where to get that?
Yeah, you can go to caseydemchak.com/secrets or just caseydemchak.com. And Demchak is Demchak, but if that's a little too fast, you can just type in Casey Copy, CopY.com. That'll take you to my website. And on any page, you can download my free ebook. It's called 7 Must-Know Copywriting Secrets That Sell More Books. And I give a nice overview of 7 big insights that will help you write much better book marketing copy. And actually, within each of those 7 insights, I give a bunch of tips. So there's actually a lot more than just 7. So, but it's free, and you can just download it, and it's something good to have within arm's reach while you're writing your book marketing copy.
People love free stuff, so go get it, everyone. CaseyCopy.com or CaseyDemchak.com. and grab your free copy of the 7 must-know copywriting secrets that sell more books. All right, so Casey, as we've talked about this conversational style. What about just writing clear headlines? Is there anything different than we talked about book titles a lot? Any hooks that you use there?
Yeah, a big thing with headlines, Judith, is a lot of people, when they start writing a headline, they think, oh, geez, I have to come up with something very clever and witty to get people's attention. But what's important to remember, a headline has 2 basic functions. Number 1, you want to get people's attention. Number 2, you want to drive them into your body copy. So if it's a headline for your back cover, you want them to read the rest of the back cover. If it's a headline on e-blast or a website sales page, you want to get people to pop down into your body copy. So you do not have to be slick and sizzly and entertaining so much to do that. Sometimes simple headlines that stress or imply a benefit are all you need. And there's a lot of, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of headline types you can draw from. For example, how-to headlines are always good, How to double your sales leads in half the time, something like that. Or 7 things you should know about writing better book marketing copy. You can just go to simple little formulas or ask thought-provoking questions. Something that'll grab people's attention and get them to go into the body copy. It doesn't have to be slick and witty or clever. I'll give you an example. I was working on a book several years ago for someone, and they had a headline. It was a book that they wanted educators to buy to educate high school kids about money. But they had a headline. It said, dollars and cents, one doesn't come with the other. And they spelled cents, S-E-N-S-E instead of C-E-N-T-S. It was like, I don't want to change that. I think that's really clever. I go, but it's kind of a clever statement, but does it really make people jump into the copy when you just write dollars and cents, one doesn't come with the other? So what we ended up settling on was 7 things every high school kid should know about money, because it makes people curious, like, well, what are those 7 things? So they're going to jump into the body copy to find out. That headline also tells them that the information is going to be presented in 7 orderly steps, which is going to be easy for me to follow. So sometimes very simple headlines that imply or stress a benefit can be much more effective than coming up with something that's, jazzy, witty, sexy, clever.
Well, I think sometimes we can out-clever ourselves. So now, I think what you're talking about, keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Because you can also, when you think I'm going to come up with a simple benefit-driven headline, you can come up with quite a few ideas in a matter of minutes. If you think I have to come up with some slick Madison Avenue style thing, you can, rack your brain for a little bit too long and come up with something that's kind of, not necessarily going to make people dive into the body copy.
Well, I like to get into, I've been a big believer in looking at headlines. Just to get my ideas, to get my creative juices, or get my shock factor in play. But I used to look at some of the stuff on the National Enquirer. Standing in line, I was like, oh my gosh. And I've said this before on other shows, but one of my favorite all-time headlines was, I gave birth in a snake-infested tree. And I'm going, holy moly, how in the hell did she climb up there with that big belly? What were all those snakes doing there? And what happened? It was the perfect grabber.
It was, and it's, as you said, it was what you just said was simple.
Yes.
It wasn't too jazzy. I gave birth in a what was it, a snake-infested tree or something like that?
Yeah, I gave birth in a snake-infested tree. I actually cut it out and had it on a bulletin board for 10 years. It so intrigued me.
Well, that'd be good, and that's another headline type. A simple headline type is the intrigue headline. Something that creates intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was a simple statement that creates intrigue. You can have a simple statement that creates curiosity, a simple statement that implies a benefit. There's a lot of different little categories. Like something like why AI, artificial intelligence, why AI is about to replace you. Okay. Someone's going to jump into the body copy if they read that. So that's not necessarily a benefit-driven headline. It's more of a fear-based headline.
All right. And a question mark to that, the question mark is, are you replaceable, ... AI says you are. And I go, oh, man. Okay, I got to read more. Tell me more. So.
Yeah, again, it's intrigue. People are curious. They want to go into the body copy. And, those kind of headlines, it's simple. All of these headline examples we've given are very straightforward, simple words, not complicated, and relatively easy to come up with.
Mm-hmm. Casey, I know we only have a couple of minutes left, but I would love, we haven't even kissed on this one. I'd love to talk about the word you, Y-O-U, that when should you use that in a headline or in your marketing copy?
I really like writing what I call you-directed copy. I've read several places that the word free is the most powerful word in marketing, but the word you is the second most powerful word. And, for example, sometimes I'll look at copy on a back cover or a sales page or Amazon description, and it says something like, readers will gain insights into how they can ... And I always tell people, change that to you will gain insights into how you can. I go, someone is reading your book, right? Have an avatar in mind or an ideal reader or target in mind and write directly to that person. So write directly to a reader. Use variations of the word you, your, you'll. Change your copy. Instead of saying readers will learn, say you will learn. Or this is what you will get. Just write very you-directed copy because ultimately you have one person reading your marketing copy. So write directly to that person. So, use the word you. Have you-directed copy instead of, kind of generic copy that talks about readers or people or something like that. Make it very you-directed.
I have to thank you, really, for adding that on. because that I have really stood on my head more times than not, trying to convince authors to write to the you, their reader, versus this we and us stuff, that more passive side of it. Can you, before we leave, we have 3 minutes left here, can you kiss on passive writing versus the more direct also?
With marketing copy, I always make it very direct. I always just tell people who don't really understand, I say just be confident, be certain with your writing. Assume interest. Don't write things like, I believe this will help you. Right? This will help you. Be certain and confident in your writing style. If you're writing a nonfiction book that's conveying information to people, stay away from little things like, in my opinion. Just state what it is on your mind. Think of people in the public eye who sell a lot of books, run a lot of programs. They're very certain and direct with their opinion. And sometimes that creates some controversy, but that's not necessarily bad. If people are disagreeing with you, you're doing something right because you're getting noticed.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I would say to be very certain with your marketing copy.
Now I'm on my Google search. In my opinion, another very overused statement, 1.2 billion times it comes up. So don't use in my opinion. And you are so right that it's almost like they have to soften it. It's like you don't want to say, I believe, you skip over that. You will discover blah, blah, blah. Much more direct.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In between these pages, your life will change. Okay, I get that. Now, give me the rest of it. All right, Casey, we're going to do a wrap-up. Thank you so much. I'd love to talk to you more about your 3-week course and see if we can play around with that and bring it to our listeners, our viewers, etc. And again, everyone, you can find Casey there's 2 places to go, caseycopy.com or Casey Demchak, Demchak, and Casey has an E in it, Casey. So Casey at the bat. And do grab his free ebook. Highly recommended that. And I want to wish all of you wonderful publishing. Really get creative juices. And I would love to have all of you after you listen to this, take out your book and look at that book cover. See what you've got. And now rewrite it with what you heard with Casey's wisdom. Casey, thanks so much for being with us today.
You are welcome, Judith. It's my pleasure.
All right. Take care. Everyone, have a good writing week, a good creativity week, and certainly stay healthy.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.